I'm Tanim Ahmed, Special Correspondent of Dhaka Tribune. I have with me Afsan Chowdhury, researcher, journalist, commentator. We have been, with the Rohingya crisis, Bangladesh has witnessed one of the major humanitarian disasters in the world, and we are in fact right in the middle of it, with almost perhaps 1 million Rohingyas right now living here, and most likely never going back if it were up to them. Now, where do we go from here? The political position we understand. There have been some assurances and even agreements or MOUs, but they don't seem to have any teeth, or they don't seem to be decisive in any way. How do we proceed? Where do we go from here, and what should we expect?
Thanks. I don't think we are going to go anywhere much, because the problem didn't begin with the last refugee exodus. It began a long time back, from 1977. I think we were victims of international politics, if you will, and also our own unpreparedness and our lack of foresight about how to manage a neighbor like Myanmar, which is essentially a military power with no understanding of how the world behaves. And I think, in my opinion, we should have shut the borders in 1977. A lot of people call human rights, human rights. My point is, yes, of course, human rights, but what do you want me to do? Shall I open the border and invite everyone in? I will not. This is my border. I have a right to seal it. We didn't. Why we didn't seal it, it's beyond me. We created the crisis. So, in the thinking of Myanmar generals, here was a very weak, not particularly smart neighbor who was willing to accept these refugees. They do not think the Rohingyas are Myanmar citizens. Now, why they don't think is another matter. But the point is, they don't think even after 200, 300 years. So, they were going to send them in. After 1977, why nobody ever advised the shutting of the border, I don't know. We are paying a price for that. In 1992, we should have shut the borders. We didn't. We assumed that everything is nice and beautiful and is probably making us important. 2014, 2012, 14, when they started to come in, we should have again shut the borders. We didn't. Why we didn't do it? Somebody else can explain. I can't. It beats my brains. Now, what is happening is they are in shelter. Instability, perhaps of controllable level, is already happening there. Two kinds. One is the fact that international players have already moved in the area. We can't deny it. There is conflict between IOM and UNHCR, and we know that because IOM says these are not refugees. UNHCR would have to say refugees. If they're refugees, they're completely different status. But very senior lawyers attached to the foreign ministry have told me that we know they are not going back. So we are really stuck with around 100,000. Now, if you look at the MOU, it does say about refugees coming after the August attack, which means that even if there were an agreement and a proper agreement, and this is not a really credible agreement, we still would not be able to send back more than 60% of the refugees. So we have to do something with the 40%. We are still stuck in a refugees coming into our country mode. I think that is not going to help us. Let's be practical. Just like the Myanmar people were not practical and they thought this was a solution, we need to be practical and accept that maybe these people are going to stay here. How do we make the situation better? Well, that thinking is, I'm sure, they should need to examine it. The other part is still being ignored, is the resentment is rising between local population and the Myanmar refugees, because they are getting resources, they are getting benefits, they are also destroying the environment, which includes cultivation fields. For this reason, I think the government needs to accept and through one way or other start dealing with the crisis. It's not going to end here, and my assessment is that it is going to affect regional relations. It is going to affect because I think China does not understand the way, that's how the issue operates. China understands Myanmar. China does not understand regimes, even limited democratic regimes in any other country. It understands only that, yes, it deals only with the government. And if you look at the statements made by the Chinese Foreign Minister, you will see clearly he's thinking only of the government. He doesn't care about public opinion. True. In China, public opinion doesn't matter. In Myanmar, public opinion doesn't matter. In Bangladesh, public opinion matters. He has not, I think China has never dealt with countries where public opinion matters. So it's going to affect China also. Bangladesh should be able to play that. I think Bangladesh should invite the US in a much bigger way. We are not pro-American, we are not pro-Chinese, we are not pro-Indian. If we can get that idea around, then it will be possible for us to deal with it. Right now we are just reacting. We are still not in a proactive stage.
Thank you.